Hey, what's going on, guys? I want to do a full review on the Fenix PD35. I know this is part of the series, and I've done a review on the TN12 before from Thrunite, so I think it's only fair as part of the series to do a full review on the PD35 as is, okay? As a single flashlight, not compared to anything else, not the TN12, not any kind of light on the market. I just want to talk about this light a little bit. It's more of a recap for people who have been following this series. But just in case you haven't followed the other videos throughout the series, I want to do just a full review on this light. Just talk a little bit about the pros and cons and my personal experience with it. So just as a quick recap, the packaging, the pros to this is that it's chock full of information. You have a full light output and runtime chart on the back, which is a really nice bonus. Usually flashlight companies do put this information in the paperwork. So it's nor here or there. I mean, if you happen to have a brick and mortar store that sells flashlights, if you were to hang this up, people can physically take it off the wall and look at it. That's great and dandy, but for most of you out there, you don't have your own store, so it's really nor here or there. The paperwork gives you all the information you need to know, as well as any website that, of course, you're buying it from. So although the package is informative, it's still cheap overall. But I don't really deal too much with the packaging. As you guys know, most time when I open something up, I throw the packaging out anyway. So on to the accessories. Of course, standard O-rings with this. You do get a pocket clip, which I'll talk about in just a moment because I personally don't use it. It's not on the flashlight. As far as the sheath is concerned, if you guys do want to carry this light with the sheath, it's very basic, run-of-the-mill Chinese, flashlight sheath. Will it function for you? Absolutely. Will it function day after day for a year or more? From personal experience, I can say probably not. I can't guarantee it because I haven't carried this day in and day out for a year or more time, but I have used almost identical sheaths before, and they just don't last the test of time. Most of the time, the stitching starts coming out, it starts fraying a little bit. Again, I'm talking from personal experience, not with this one, but very, very similar sheaths, and they're all probably made in the same facility. But anyway, you have a Velcro closure on the front. Okay, Velcro, there's nothing wrong with it. Of course, with time, if it gets dirty, it will not function as well, but that's very common to have on flashlight sheaths as well as knife sheaths, so it's not really, I don't really consider it a negative so much. It's pretty basic, there's no elastic or anything, so it is kind of a looser fit. It does, obviously, as you can see, fit the flashlight just fine. Okay, it does have a loop on the back, as well as a little loop on the top here in case you want to throw it on a carabiner or something, have a little bit of a looser fit as opposed to fishing this through your belt. All right, but it's just kind of on the cheaper side, but honestly completely functional. It's just I wouldn't rely on it for long-term usage, that's all. But as is, if you want to use it occasionally, I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. As far as a pocket clip, I like the fact that it's all black. Okay, it does obviously match the light. It's very simple to get on and off, as you can see here. Just kind of a tension fit. There is a cutout here, kind of a ring, so you can pop this on anytime you want to use it. Keeps the bezel down, which is very nice. It keeps it protected, so if you want to clip this to inside your pocket or a bag or something, it does keep the business end on the downside. Okay, so things don't fall on it or scratch it up as easily. Tension is absolutely perfect. It does function exactly how it's supposed to. I just personally don't use them, so I'm gonna pop mine off. All right, so as far as the flashlight here, I've had multiple Fenix flashlight models before, at least a dozen or more. It's a very good company. I don't really see any concerns with the longevity of this flashlight in using it. We will do a test in the future, with some light destruction, normal, everyday kind of stuff, dropping it, maybe getting wet, things of that nature. But it's a good quality flashlight, all right? And as far as my usage on this particular one, it's worked just fine. It turns on every time I click the button, so it's a good quality light overall. As far as flashlights today, a lot of them are pretty standardized. You have like a Type 3 anodized finish on this. Of course, anti-reflective coating on that glass lens. That's important. These are little details in flashlights that really do make the difference. This particular flashlight has a nice smooth reflector. I've had no problems at all with the beam. Of course, in any position or any mode. There's no artifacts or any kind of shadowing in this light whatsoever. As far as the button on the side, it is very audible. Okay, when you click this, you get a very loud click. All right, so you know that you're actually, changing the modes. I don't really see it as a positive or a negative. I think very few people watching this video really need a covert flashlight. If anything, it's just preference. Doesn't bother me so much, but it's worth mentioning. It's a very loud click in changing the modes. So anyway, just to recap, if you haven't seen other videos, low mode is 10 lumens. You get 140 hour runtime on that. All right, next mode is 45 lumens for 29 hours. Bump it up to 170 lumens for 7 hours and 45 minutes. Then 450 lumens for 2 hours and a half, or 2 hours and 30 minutes. All right, next mode is the full output, 850 lumens for an hour and 15 minutes. I can feel the heat coming off of that front end. Okay, 850 lumens is nothing to, scoff at. That is a lot of light, and it's generating a lot of heat, even with this LED. All right, if you were to hold this the side button down, it doesn't matter what position you're in or what mode you're in. If you hold it down for a second or two, it goes right to strobe. All right, about an hour and 25-minute runtime. Okay, any point in time while it's in strobe, you can just click it once and it'll shut that off. It does have a mode memory, so let's say you're in low mode. You shut it off no matter what you do. When you go to turn it back on, it'll remember that last mode you're in. All right, this is it's beneficial if you use a particular mode more than once or quite often. However, if you're like in the middle somewhere and you shut it off and you turn it back on, most people won't really remember what mode they're in. So generally speaking, I'll have to cycle through and get back to that low mode to kind of know where I am. I don't think it's really a positive or a negative. It's just, something to consider. When you're turning on the flashlight, most times I'm going to have to, cycle through the modes again to see where I'm at. As far as the middle modes, the difference between 45 lumens or 170 lumens, depending on what you're doing, especially if you're outside, it's not that different, to be honest. All right, so if I'm outside and I'm using these different modes, I'll cycle through no matter what and just get back to that high mode. If I don't leave it on that high mode before I shut it off, I'll cycle through, to get the most light I can out of this flashlight. That's for outdoor use. For indoor use, I will generally, stick with the lower modes. The flashlight overall, I really do think it's very good quality. The downsides to this, something that I personally look for in a flashlight, is the fact that it can tail stand. I can turn the flashlight on and put it on a flat surface and basically light a room up. I'm concerned with this for emergency purposes. If my power goes out or something, I want to be able to light up the room with ambient light. I cannot do this with this flashlight. The way this is configured, the button sticks up past the body. All right, so it's a negative to me. It's preference though. Not everyone really cares about that all that much. You can see there are fins here. Okay, this is to help dissipate that heat from that LED. Keeping this on high, the full 850 lumens for an extensive period of time, no issues at all with the flashlight, blinking or having any problems or overheating. Okay, so as far as the heat escaping through this flashlight, it's very well done how this head is. So no issues at all with the flashlight being on for longer periods of time. Generally speaking, when you're using the flashlight, especially on like high mode, most people don't use it for more than a few minutes at a time. As far as like testing purposes, you want to kind of leave it on longer just to see if there's any issues. Some flashlights out there will kind of overheat and have malfunctions in that high mode for a long period of time because it does generate a lot of heat. No issues at all with this particular light in that instance. Flashlight, as far as cost, it's about a $60 flashlight. That's as low as you're gonna find this, is 60 bucks on like Amazon or maybe eBay if you really look around a little bit. For 60 bucks, I think it's a fantastic light. I don't want to take away from the fact that it is a very good flashlight. I personally don't think it's the best option. Hence this whole series, battling against a very competitive light like the Thrunite TN12. I do prefer the TN12 over this light. But it shouldn't take away from this flashlight. Just because I personally don't think it's the best option for its price range does not make it a bad light. It's still a good light. I just don't think it's the best option out there. But the flashlight market is extremely competitive between like the $40 and $80 mark. There's a lot of flashlights out there with a lot of different features and functions. And it's not a bad way to go. It's just not my personal preference. I still think that you can get a little bit more bang for your buck than this particular light, but it doesn't make it a bad light. I still think it's a good option. I think if you happen to be, a huge Fenix fan, obviously it's something you might want to add to your collection. as far as a usable light, is very much a good functional, you know, good quality light. I don't see any reason why it wouldn't work. I've never had any bad experience with Fenix lights before. It's just, I personally think that you can get a little bit more, you know, for your money. So anyway, let's pop outside and get some beam shots of this flashlight and kind of see it more in action. All right, so doing some beam shots out here with the Fenix PD35. Now, these are just going to be solo beam shots. Later in another video in this series, you're going to see a direct comparison in real life scenarios and situations, the beam shot between the TN12 and the PD35. But just for the review here, these are the beam shots. So we have the light, first turn on. We're in our eco mode. Actually go down to the ground here to show you that. This is only 10 lumens, so it's not going to project out much into the woods or anything, at least nothing you can see. So first mode is eco, 10 lumens there. Then we hit the side switch here, and it's going to go up to our low. I could probably bring this up a little bit. You can see about 10 or 15 feet to the end of the driveway there. Not a whole lot of light. You know, it's okay for most close quarter stuff, but as far as being outside here, it's still very low light. So bump it up into medium. I'm gonna use that little pine tree as a focal point for this these beam shots. Pretty decent amount of light, even in medium. This, you can get most of what you want to get done out here. It's not really going to strain the eyes much. It does have a pretty decent spread here. It's just, you know, the more the merrier. So we'll bump it up again. Now we're in our high. Okay. Now it's maybe hard for you guys to see here, but in person I have about a 20 or 25 foot spread here, and it's pretty high spread too. So the light is dispersing very nicely. I don't see any kind of artifacts or shadows or anything like that. So bump it up one more time into turbo. Not much difference between high and turbo. In person, outside like this, it just a shade, you know, or a tint higher. You know what I mean? It's really not much difference between high and turbo as far as being outside and what you're able to see out here. But you guys can clearly see that tree. I can see the tree and beyond it to the front of the property there. So at least 30-40 feet. Plenty of spread. And if I go up into the trees a little bit, you can see it climbs up in those trees. Nice wide beam. And again, no real issues with a beam shot or anything. Now, what you guys are looking at out here, it looks to be pretty darn white. But this is what's surprising. This LED actually has a pretty strong bluish or purplish tint. And the only way I can really show that is in the comparison video, the beam shots against the TN12, which has a much whiter LED. So, you know, just one of those things. When you have a single light, it's hard to compare it to anything. I mean, it looks great. It does function very nicely, and it's going to work very good for a lot of people. But in comparing it with another light, you really see where its pros and cons are. So that's it. If I hold the button down, you can see it does change the frequency. So super fast. Then I'll change up to a slower strobe, which is very nice. It's good to have that feature. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for future videos on this light, and I hope you have a great day. Take care.